If your home has one of the terrible features I'm about to mention, don't panic, because most people are making the same mistake without even knowing it. The problem is that these things don't break down immediately. They degrade slowly over time, and by the time you look back, you'll regret living with that mistake for so long. You'd be awesome if you liked this video. 1. Built-in microwave and oven combo units. In many kitchens, combining the microwave and oven into a single tall unit is often chosen because the sense of neatness it brings is very convincing. The kitchen looks more seamless, and the cabinet surfaces are cleaner since there is no longer a separate microwave sitting on the countertop. But after just a few years of use, many inconveniences begin to surface. The microwave and oven are used at very different frequencies. The microwave is used multiple times a day, while the oven is used less often but operates for longer periods and at higher temperatures. Two appliances with different lifespans are locked into a single unit. The biggest issue is when the microwave section malfunctions. Replacing it is no longer as simple as swapping out a standalone appliance. You have to find the exact model that fits the existing cabinet cutout, but the old model has been discontinued by the manufacturer and the new models are off by a few inches. At that point, replacing the microwave turns into remodeling the entire cabinet unit, with costs significantly higher than just buying a new standalone unit. I once encountered a case where a homeowner had to spend nearly $2,000 just to replace the microwave portion of a combo unit because the old model was discontinued, whereas a good standalone microwave only costs $300 to $500. For the best optimization, separate the microwave and oven if your kitchen layout allows. A standalone wall oven combined with a microwave placed at an easy-to-reach height will be much more flexible for long-term use, especially when you need to repair or replace each item individually. Getting the wrong size is a different story because it sits right in the middle of your kitchen, and you have to live with it every time you cook. 2. A kitchen island that is too large. When designing a kitchen, many people think that the bigger the island, the more value it adds, providing more countertop space, more seating, and making the kitchen look more luxurious. But when the size exceeds the necessary proportions, this central feature actually begins to reduce convenience instead of supporting the kitchen workflow. A kitchen island that is too large narrows the traffic paths around it below the ideal clearance. When opening the dishwasher, pulling out a stool, or when two people are working on opposite sides, lacking just a few inches of clearance makes the space feel noticeably cramped. If a husband and wife are cooking together and bumping into each other every time they turn around, that island is serving the blueprints, not you. An island that is too long can also disrupt the natural workflow in the kitchen. Simple tasks like grabbing ingredients, washing, prepping, and then moving to the stove should happen within a short distance. However, if the island takes up too much space, you have to walk all the way around it and everything moves slower than necessary. With a split island, the problem lies in the interrupted workspace. Two separate units might sound flexible, but in actual cooking, having to constantly shift back and forth between two small countertops feels more disruptive than convenient. When guests tour a kitchen and have to walk around the island like they're walking around a pool table, their first impression won't be, "Wow, what a spacious kitchen," but rather, "This kitchen is hard to use." Let the island properly fulfill its role of supporting the workflow. Maintain a minimum clearance of 42 inches around the island, which is enough for two people to walk past each other comfortably. 3. Choosing open shelving for the kitchen. Open shelving looks amazing for the first week. By the third week, you notice a thin layer of greasy dust settling on those favorite white dishes you saw on Pinterest. By the 6th week, you start washing things again before using them, even though they're right there on the shelf. In reality, the kitchen is the highest traffic area in the house, with steam, grease, and fine dust constantly airborne every time you cook. Without upper cabinets for protection, all the dishes and glassware on open shelves are directly exposed to that environment. As a result, items that look clean actually need to be wiped down or re-washed more frequently before use. Another inconvenience is that open shelving pretty much demands constant tidiness. Just adding a few mismatched mugs, some spice jars, or temporarily placing a few everyday items is enough to instantly throw off the entire look. Storage is also significantly restricted because open shelving can rarely replace upper cabinets completely, as its actual capacity is much lower. When everything is on display, you can't put away too many items unless you want the kitchen to start looking cluttered. The rest of your kitchenware ultimately gets crammed into the lower cabinets or the pantry, making retrieving items in the main kitchen area less convenient. A more reasonable solution is to use open shelving only for a small accent section. For example, near the coffee bar or on a wall segment that isn't exposed to cooking steam. The main storage should still consist of closed cabinets to ensure long-term consistency. Beautiful yet functional, that's what makes it worth the investment. Next up is an error that will annoy you just as much. You will realize it most clearly when you have to carry a laundry basket up and down the stairs for the third time in a single day. 4. A laundry room inconveniently located. You carry a basket of dirty clothes down to the basement. The stairs are narrow, the basket is heavy, and you almost slip. Back up you go, carrying a basket of clean clothes to the second-floor bedroom to fold. Then back down again for the next load. Anyone living in a house where the laundry is in the basement gets it. The annoyance isn't because the washing machine is bad. It's because of the distance involved. When allocating square footage, most people prioritize the living room, kitchen, or primary bedroom, treating the laundry room as a secondary area that can be shrunk down as much as possible. It looks reasonable on the blueprints, but once you settle into daily life, this becomes one of the places most likely to cause a daily headache. Doing laundry is a repetitive chore, and the biggest inconvenience doesn't stem from the washing machine itself, but from the traffic paths. When the laundry room is too far from the main living areas or requires walking up and down multiple floors, carrying clothes, towels, or bed sheets becomes a much more grueling task than originally anticipated. Noise is another factor that is often overlooked. If the laundry room is placed right next to a bedroom or near a relaxation area without adequate soundproofing, the vibrations from the washer and dryer will be much more noticeable, especially in the evening or early morning. It's best to position the laundry room close enough to the bedroom area or main hallway to minimize daily foot travel. Even if the space isn't large, you should still leave room for at least a small countertop, a hanging rod, and enough space for basic tasks. 5. Large bathtubs and whirlpool tubs. I once toured a beautiful master bath where a freestanding tub placed in the middle of the room looked like a magazine photo. When I asked the homeowner if she enjoyed using it, she said, "I soaked in there 3 times in 2 years and now it's a towel rack." A $3,000 tub turned into the most luxurious drying rack in the neighborhood. That is not a rare case. A large bathtub placed in the middle of the room always creates a very strong impression, especially when looking at the design blueprints or walking into a newly finished space, giving the vibe of a high-end hotel or a home spa. But what is usually realized only after a while is that this prominent position does not mean it gets used proportionally. In most daily life, the shower is still the most used area because it is faster and more convenient. Therefore, a bathtub in the middle of the room easily becomes a large object that takes up a significant amount of space, while its frequency of use is much lower than initially expected. When a bathtub is placed in the center, the surrounding area must also have enough clearance left to maintain good proportions and create pathways. As a result, the bathroom loses a portion of space that could be used more effectively for a larger shower, a wider vanity, or extra storage. Cleaning around it is also always more annoying than a tub placed against the wall. You know the gap behind it is dirty, but your hand cannot fit in there to wipe it down properly. A whirlpool tub is a more extreme version of the same problem. Its size is significantly larger than a standard soaking tub, requiring a thicker surrounding frame and taking up more space. The internal jet system makes cleaning much more complicated because water scum, soap, and moisture build up in the jet pipes over time where you cannot see. The noise when the jets are running is also much louder than many people think, especially in a closed bathroom at night. If relaxation is the goal, a simple soaking tub is usually easier to use, easier to clean, and you will actually sit in it more often. Sometimes less is more. And when selling the house, the real estate agent will tell you straight out. A buyer looking at a dusty whirlpool tub in the master bath does not see luxury. They see a problem they have to deal with. The wrong bathtub takes up space and wastes money. But there is something wrong that you cannot see with your eyes until the ceiling begins to crack around the light fixtures. 6. Trimless flush mount LED canless lights. Recently, the trend of an absolutely clean and flat ceiling took over, and people simultaneously turned their backs on the old-style recessed can lights with protruding trims, replacing them with ultra-thin LED light systems where holes are cut directly into the drywall and then mudded over for a trimless look. When turned on, the ceiling looks as smooth as a piece of paper, and the light emits as if from nowhere, looking extremely high-end and minimalist. I understand the appeal. That completely flat ceiling looks truly beautiful, until the first bulb burns out. Unlike old-style recessed lights that have a protective metal housing box and heat dissipation hidden inside the ceiling, ultra-thin canless LED lights press flat against the drywall sheet. When turned on continuously for many hours, the amount of heat emitted from the driver and the LED chip has no space to escape, generating high heat right at the point of contact with the ceiling. But the most painful part for the wallet is when replacing the bulb. Since the light has been drywall mudded over the trimless edge, prying it out means breaking the surrounding patch of the ceiling. A $20 light bulb now adds $150 to $200 for a drywaller and a painter. I have seen a homeowner install 30 trimless lights in a new home, and 2 years later they started burning out here and there. Each replacement meant calling a professional, patching the ceiling, and repainting. It went from economical, beautiful, modern, to a never-ending maintenance project. If you use trimless, it is mandatory to choose the type with a metal mud-in ring that is securely screwed into the ceiling framing before applying the joint compound, rather than using the type with spring clips attached directly to the drywall. Or more simply, go back to micro trim lights. The trim is less than 1 to 2 millimeters thick, but covers the expansion gap and can easily be lifted out for maintenance in 5 seconds without calling anyone. That thin trim is worth more than you think. 7. Too many glass front kitchen cabinets. A few glass doors placed in the right spots look beautiful. When light reflects off the glass surface, the upper cabinets lose their visual heaviness, and the kitchen easily gains a more airy feel, especially in spaces using light colors or a modern transitional style. With just a few glass doors in the right places, the resulting effect can be very impressive. But problems begin to appear when the number of glass doors exceeds what is necessary. At this point, the kitchen no longer maintains its inherent role of concealed storage, but almost turns into a continuous display area. And that means everything inside must be tidy enough, uniform enough, and clean enough so as not to make the overall space look cluttered. What about in actual daily life? You finish washing the dishes and stack them away quickly to make it to work on time. Mismatched bowls sit next to temporarily placed food containers, and your child's plastic cup is squeezed into the middle of a porcelain dish set. The glass surface itself also needs to be wiped down much more frequently than many people think. Fingerprints, steam, uneven wipe marks, and fine dust all show up quite clearly under kitchen lighting, especially on cabinet doors near the cooking area or close to windows. The solution is not to eliminate glass completely, but to use it in the right dosage. 1 or 2 glass doors in a display position, housing your finest dish set, is enough to create an accent. Keep the rest as closed cabinets so the kitchen remains beautiful without you having to rearrange the cabinets every time guests come over. 8. Waterfall countertops on the kitchen island. In newly finished spaces, a waterfall countertop, with the stone extending from the island's surface and flowing vertically straight down to the floor, almost instantly becomes the most attractive feature of the kitchen, especially when using stone with beautiful veining. Because of this, many people view this as a detail that makes the kitchen look more luxurious without needing too much extra decoration. But when put into actual use, this extended stone section sits right in the location that takes the most impacts in the kitchen. Stools are pushed in and out, and shoes bump against it lightly every day. With certain types of natural stone or quartz that have sharp edges, just repeating this for a few months can cause the edge of the stone to start chipping. A waterfall edge also reduces flexibility in the seating area. When the stone surface extends completely down on one side, pulling chairs in close or choosing a type of stool with a high backrest becomes less convenient compared to a standard open edge. And legroom is also restricted, especially if the kitchen island is not deep enough from the start. Fabrication costs are also significantly higher because each waterfall edge requires precise cutting and joining, so that the vein flows continuously between the horizontal and vertical surfaces. With that same cost, sometimes investing in a higher quality stone surface for the main usage area or in smarter storage will provide much more practical value. And the next feature involves a type of material that many people drop tens of thousands of dollars on: only to end up draping a cloth over it to cover it because they are afraid to use it. 9. Marble countertops in high-use kitchen areas. Marble always has a very distinct appeal in the kitchen because this surface creates a sense of luxury in a very natural way. The soft veining, the clear depth of the material, and the subtle light reflection make marble almost always stand out more than many other types of surfaces when placed under kitchen lighting. But few people know that this is a type of stone with a surface that is softer than many imagine. Very familiar impacts, such as dragging pots, placing hard objects down, or doing direct prep work, can all leave slight marks over time. The bigger issue is that marble is highly sensitive to acidic substances. Lemon juice, vinegar, coffee, tomato sauce, or wine, if left on the surface for too long, can all create etching, which is a slight dull spot on the stone surface even if it is wiped clean immediately afterward. I know of a homeowner who spilled a glass of red wine on a marble countertop installed just 6 months prior. They wiped it up within 30 seconds, but the stain still did not come out completely. If you love the beauty of marble, you should only use it in lower impact areas like a baking zone, a backsplash, or a kitchen island meant more for decoration. For the main cooking area, marble look quartz usually provides a nearly identical feel, but is much easier to use in the rhythm of daily life. 10. Lacking a quiet room in an open concept home. Open concept layouts bring a sense of spaciousness, brightness, and great connection, which is why many homes today are almost completely open between the kitchen, dining, and living room. Looking at the design blueprints, everything is very airy and modern. But after living in it for a while, many people finally realize that this seamless flow also means sound no longer has a stopping point. With just one person watching TV, one person cooking, young children playing, or someone on a Zoom call, the entire main floor immediately shares the exact same layer of noise. When you need to focus on work, read a book, or simply want to sit quietly in a peaceful moment, the house has nowhere that is truly separated. Many people only realize this after a few years, when lifestyle habits change or the family grows. A home that is visually beautiful but lacks a place to close the door when needed will quickly reveal its limitations in daily life. This quiet space does not necessarily have to be a large room. Just a small study, a flex room, a den, or even a room with sound-insulated sliding doors is enough to make a massive difference in the living experience. Even if you choose an open concept design, you should still keep at least one enclosed space that can be used flexibly. But the last two items are choices where people drop tens of thousands of dollars only to barely ever use them. 11. A separate dedicated home theater room. There was a time when a home theater room was practically viewed as the clear sign of a high-end home. A dedicated room, completely controlled lighting, fixed seating, and a massive screen gave the feeling of bringing the cinema right into the house. On the blueprints, this is always a space that easily impresses because it suggests a heavy investment in the lifestyle experience. But the way people use space in the home has changed quite a bit. 75-inch TVs are no longer a luxury, and the picture and sound quality in the family room or living room is already good enough to meet most daily entertainment needs. When the whole family wants to watch a movie, they sit on the sofa. No one wants to migrate into an isolated dark room just to watch Netflix. The biggest inconvenience is that a home theater is only suitable for one very specific purpose. The space is usually kept dark with little natural light, features fixed seating layouts, and is difficult to adapt for other activities. After the initial novelty wears off, many families begin reverting to using the living room as their main movie-watching area because it is more convenient. And I have yet to meet a buyer who says, "Oh great, a theater room." The first question is always, can this room be turned into a guest bedroom? Or, can we use this as a home office? Buyers look at a theater room and immediately think about how to convert it into something else because the square footage is large but the purpose of use is locked in. 12. A smart home system that is too complex. This item is not an interior design mistake in the traditional sense, but it directly affects how you live in your home every day, which is why I want to mention it. Many people install smart home systems with the desire to make everything more convenient. And initially, that feeling is completely true because each new device makes the home feel noticeably more modern. But after a while, problems begin to surface when individual items are purchased from different brands, with each device coming with its own separate app and its own way of operating. The lights have one app, the blinds have another app, the cameras are on a separate system, and the door lock belongs to yet another platform. For older adults or guests visiting the house, this complexity becomes even clearer when a simple task like turning on a light relies on a touch panel, an app, or a voice command instead of a familiar switch. When the Wi-Fi glitches, the entire system shakes. And after a few years, when a manufacturer changes their software or stops supporting updates, a $300 device installed last year suddenly becomes a brick. A reasonable solution is to build your smart home based on a unified ecosystem right from the start, prioritizing devices with good compatibility, and always keeping manual control options for basic functions. Lights must be turn-onable with a switch, and blinds must be pullable by hand. Smart is good, but when it breaks down, the house must still function normally. A truly high-end home does not lie in flashy technology or shiny blocks of stone, but in whether or not it serves your actual life well. Don't let today's emotional choices become tomorrow's home renovation bills.